Super Mario 3D Land and a couple other titles helped matters, but the 3DS had a rough beginning. We know the 3DS today is a well-renowned system and a successful one at that, but it was until 2013 when a game released that changed the system's life forever. A game so critically acclaimed, a game that would become a 5 million seller, a game that would save the 3DS. I'm Innocent Christoph Gavin, and this is Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. I played the original Luigi's Mansion once through. It was an enjoyable time, and it was a good game that took risks. As of now, that's all I have to say about it. Well, we should analyze the legacy anyway. Luigi's Mansion was a launch title for the Nintendo GameCube and was met with fairly positive reception. It didn't receive much attention, but it got a massive cult following throughout the following decade, to the point where every year fans would be begging for another Luigi's Mansion. Well, created entirely out of popular demand, a virtue in the gaming world we live in, a sequel began development. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, known in Europe and Australia as Luigi's Mansion 2, is an action-adventure video game developed... Wait. What do you mean I'm reading off of Wikipedia? Don't plagiarize. Development history is important to me, so let's take a quick look at how Dark Moon was developed. Next Level Games and Shigeru Miyamoto's vision is what led to the game and the final product. Bryce Holiday of Next Level Games is also a key director of this title. It was 2013, the year of Luigi. This was a year consisting of 4 titles that starred Mario's forgotten brother, and these were aimed to diversify the Mario series during the 3DS and Wii U era. They absolutely succeeded in that. The games included New Super Luigi U, Mario & Luigi Dream Team, this game, and lastly, Dr. Luigi. Literally on the last day of the year. As you would imagine, the hype leading up to Dark Moon's release was off the charts. Well, how was reception for the game? Critics and fans worshipped the game. We all know that having a high score on Metacritic is pretty tough, but Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon sits at an 86. Even better, the game sold just under 5 million copies, as I alluded to earlier. This means that Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is one of the most critically acclaimed games that I will be tackling at this current point in time, excluding the 1996 reviews of Super Mario 64. Well, it's been 4 years since I played it on my 3DS, so let's analyze it and see if it truly is this good. Let's discuss the plot. On a dark and stormy night in Evershade Valley, Professor Egad tinkers with some machinery. Right off the bat, the players are introduced to the ghosts who are helping Egad with his little project. King Boo, the antagonist of the first Luigi's Mansion, shatters the dark moon that hangs in the sky. This causes all of the ghosts to become evil. We then go to Luigi and see him sleeping in a chair. Egad communicates with Luigi through the TV, Epic Mickey style, and forces Luigi to meet him in the bunker. The ghosts have become so rampant in so little time that Egad refuses to leave the bunker. This is somewhat surprising considering he was not concerned with his own safety in the original Luigi's Mansion. I mean, just look at him taking care of the ghosts right here. Regardless, Egad explains to the player and Luigi what happened and why it's a problem. This could have been the most bland opening of all time, and secretly it may be on paper, but Egad's writing and Luigi's expressions put this on a whole new level. Luigi is surprised to hear that Egad has found one piece of the Dark Moon by himself and requests Luigi to do the unthinkable. That poor guy is very afraid of ghosts, and in a clear effort to avoid copyright infringement, Egad praises Luigi's past abilities when facing the ghosts. This still doesn't convince Luigi to rally the ghosts up and restore the Dark Moon, but we know Egad. That's not going to change his plan. At this point, the player gains control and is able to navigate the menus to their liking. Upon selecting the first mission, the story continues, but the opening premise has officially ended here. In terms of story, Dark Moon doesn't shatter my brain with complexity, but it does with tone and writing. The opening is rather spooky, but Egad's charm keeps the balance even between humor and darkness. I'll elaborate more on this later. Dark Moon has a linear structure between missions, so we can expect more dialogue than the original Luigi's Mansion. Indeed, there is a lot more dialogue, and it's superb. The more time you spend in the bunker, the more you'll appreciate the atmosphere in this calming lab of Professor Egad. I love hearing all of the computerized noises and the ever-emphasized machine noises. I'd like to think these function as relaxing white noise rather than as cartoonish effects, but your mileage may vary. This game has an atmosphere that is worth praising in general. The combination of visuals, music, and tone are what let this game shine in that regard. Secret Mine, the fourth mansion in this game, actually made it onto my top 10 winter atmospheres countdown, and for good reason. Atmosphere is hard to describe, but this analysis will touch base with it in a few indirect ways that will hopefully paint a broader picture in ways other than blatant chatter. But besides that point, there's something else I need to take note of that is relevant to the bunker. 95% of Dark Moon's plot takes place inside this lab, with Luigi always coming back after a mission to talk to Egad. Every time a mission is finished, I'm excited to head back to the bunker and take in that atmosphere once again. It's true, I look forward to the bunker constantly. It's the only place in Evershade Valley that you can feel safe in. Egad is an absolute delight as well. He's very enthusiastic about researching what goes on throughout Luigi's adventure, and instead of acting like Fi from Skyward Sword, Egad is a guide in only the best way. A pleasant, comfortable force to have behind your back. The professor will prepare Luigi with his mission objective, and will then teleport Luigi to the mansion via the Pixelizer. Let's be honest, boys and girls, Luigi is terrified about his missions with the mansions, but if you notice, he actually becomes more accepting as the game progresses. However, to keep this arc from being so linear, the plan fails multiple times in a way very reminiscent of Sly 2 Band of Thieves. Okay, I realize there have been a lot of comparisons, so I promise I'll stop. For example, take a look at what happens at the end of B4, Pool Party.
Yeah. Ho ho! No, bad dog.
Well, the next mission has Egad coming up with a completely new plan, and this makes getting the key the priority rather than finding a way to the Dark Moon piece. And as my point from before suggested, Luigi gets anxious when he's told to chase down the dog. Nobody likes a quick change of plans. At this point, I'll cover the other main plot points whenever they become relevant again. I promise by the end of this review, you'll have all the details. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon has a basic plot with layers and layers of finely crafted storytelling, with examples being the characters' personalities, the animations, and the writing, to something as specific as the check-ins with the professor back at the bunker. Without going into gameplay, there's already an established motivation to keep playing, so long that you enjoy Luigi, Egad, and the atmosphere of the bunker. Onto the gameplay, Dark Moon is a linear but exploration-based game that takes place in 5 separate mansions. Everything is connected via rooms of various shapes and sizes. Sometimes you'll need to find a key or solve a puzzle in order to make a room accessible. Here's how the game is organized. The first mission of each mansion is usually the longest and the most thorough in terms of exploration. You go through a lot of the rooms and are introduced to the mansion in a very informal way. Once you explore a lot of one mansion, the later missions become less linear. After what are roughly 20-minute missions, Egad will transport you back to the bunker, meaning that you'll be forced to leave the mansion, including leaving alone any money or any collectibles you've missed. Linear gameplay is never bad by principle, no matter what people say. And not only is that true, but Dark Moon's gameplay and storytelling is only as strong as it is because of its linear structure. Yes, this game has excellent gameplay, but I'd like to analyze it more before we preach it to the high heavens. I'm aware that there are a large portion of fans of Dark Moon by the way, who happen to prefer the original Luigi's Mansion. I can understand people's preferences and different tastes. But I can't understand what concrete arguments the elite minority of these people have against Dark Moon.
But Gavin, Ouija Board McMansion Duo's Dim Lunar is inferior to the original Ouija Board McMansion because it has a mission structure. Ruined forever.
Oh, be quiet. I am aware of that vague argument. The original was mostly non-linear in its gameplay. Please understand that I enjoy the original for this exact point, but I cannot deny that Dark Moon has a superior skeleton. Luigi must use his Poltergust 5000 to suck up objects around him, as well as the opposite with blowing out air. This machine is pretty much the most important gadget Luigi has, and I really enjoy using the Poltergust 5000 for how it often leads to puzzle solving in many cases. By default, Luigi will carry a flashlight so that you can see in the often dark rooms. There isn't much of a use for this in puzzles, but combat is a whole other story. You'll be fighting hundreds of ghosts by the end of the adventure, and thankfully the mechanics are tight and never lose their fun factor for me. The ghosts could be holding weapons such as shovels or be protecting themselves with a helmet, for example. So, unless they taunt you, you cannot do anything offensive in these cases. Using the precision offered by the gyroscope on the 3DS, it's possible to suck the gadgets right off of them, leaving them wide open. But from here, sucking up ghosts is always the same process. Stun them by charging your flashlight, then hold down the R button to latch onto the ghost and pull back with the circle pad in the opposite direction that they're moving to do the most damage. The Poltergust 5000 produces electricity that will quickly damage the ghosts one numerical factor at a time. After building up what I presume to be enough energy, you can shock the ghosts to speed up the damage and or killing process. Once their health reaches 0, you suck them in. It sounds extremely complicated, but it's fairly straightforward in practice. I love this combat system for 3 main reasons. For one, charging the flashlight immediately places Luigi in a strafing mode, so if you're being careless and you're aiming the light behind the enemy, you not only can't do anything to change your position, but you're gonna get hit. The second reason I love this combat system so much is the way it encourages the player to have good spatial awareness. If there are ghosts attacking you while you're trying to suck up another one, you have to time your hop with the B button or take a hit and lose grip of that pesky ghost, and it feels devastating to mess this up. Let me inform you that failing to use the circle pad correctly will prompt Luigi into sliding around all over the room, which is incredibly dangerous in late game encounters. The third and final thing that I need to discuss is how the upgrade system affects your decisions mid-battle. Collecting money during missions will open up equipment expansions courtesy of Professor Egad. These range from a larger stun radius on the flashlight, more dark light battery, which I'll get to soon, or a stronger electric charge that can be unleashed on the ghosts. These upgrades, especially the latter one, may encourage players to take more risks mid-battle. A player might decide that they want to store up a huge blast of electricity, but then defense becomes harder. In Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, when you really boil the combat down, it's about this. How quickly can I clear this room before I take too much damage? The ways you can experiment with the combat will lead to a thrilling time again and again because of this. The combat can get very stressful and very cluttered late game, a flaw I can't think of a solution to, but you'll have to bear with it. Unfortunately, Next Level Games made a bold decision. If you die during a mission, you have to start over. Yes, potentially 20 minutes of gameplay gone down the drain. This is dumb, and I don't have to explain why. Despite how ruthless this is, they grant you an extra life with the gold bone, which you can find by investigating around the mansion. So if you lose all health, you'll come back immediately to full health. Still, I think this is too unforgiving. Not because Dark Moon is a hard game, it's not, but because the consequences of redoing so much content is just plain stupid. Now, Luigi can interact with the environment with the X button. This could literally range from sitting on a toilet to checking a drawer for goodies. I enjoy this a lot, and people who enjoy taking their time in exploration-based games will get great use out of the X button. I'm not gonna lie and say that there's a lot of optional things to find, but in addition to money, you can score yourself some gems. The Dark Light is a somewhat controversial gadget that Luigi gains in the game, and I think it's fairly interesting, if a little cumbersome. The dark light allows you to restore parts of the mansion that have been taken away. If anything looks missing, use the dark light and suck up the indigo orbs to restore the object. Now, I said this was a little cumbersome, but that's because the orbs are small and require precise aiming to suck up easily. The good news is that the 3DS's gyroscope makes this a lot easier, so there shouldn't be any difficulties when restoring these objects. Do I believe that the dark light adds to the gameplay? Not really, but it's fun to use. The puzzles are a little too easy to have the dark light be credited as necessary and super beneficial. And that's what I have to analyze on the main mechanics and structure. I think the best way to analyze Dark Moon is by describing each of the missions mansion at a time. This game is best looked at in context, so let's roll into it. The first mansion is named the Gloomy Manor. Aesthetically, it's your typical looking mansion. The layout is also fairly standard. There's a foyer, there's a garage, there's a bathroom, a common hall, and many bedrooms. Despite this simplicity, the color is rich. The sophisticated browns are very pleasing to look at. The Gloomy Mansion looks very well kept, and that's something you can't really say for the other mansions in this game. The patterns on the walls are especially charming. The layout sees some simplicity as well, with easy navigation between the rooms. Yeah, that's all I have to say on the Gloomy Manor. As for the missions, A1 is simply about equipping the Poltergust 5000 in the garage. The end. A2 has you on the hunt for gears that were stolen by the ghosts, and by the end you retrieve and replace them to expand the mansion. This mission sends you all over, and you'll notice something is incredibly off. Ew, all those spider webs. One of the gears is hidden in the mansion's study, but to reach the room you have to sit on a bed and get thrown into the other side. Egad tells Luigi that he will create a mechanism for him to put the gears into place. A3 begins with the mechanism ready to go, which is hilarious to see if you dive right into A3 after A2. I suppose a little bit of time passes between some of the missions, but the game doesn't explicitly say that. A3 has Luigi exploring the rest of the Gloomy Manor, climaxing with a fight at the library. Notice a certain tune being played. This is basically the ghost's main theme, but trust me, it leads to something awesome in the final level. A4 sees the obvious but neat return of the booze, and lastly, A5 is concerned with getting rid of all the spiderwebs to progress, ending with Egad calling Luigi to tell him that he's identified the source of the mansion spiders. The basement? Who would have guessed? And then there's the boss stage of the mansion, where Luigi takes out the giant spider and collects the piece of the Dark Moon. Oh, about those Egad calls. Before we move any further, we need to talk about something.
Oh, yellow. Oh, yellow. Oh, yellow. Come on.
One detail I glossed over is that Egad gave Luigi a DS to provide two things to Luigi. One, a map, being an in-game universe explanation for the map on the bottom screen of the 3DS, and the other being that Egad can call you once you complete an objective, and pretty much whenever he wants. In the Gloomy Manor, this man won't shut up, and he will continue to call you and interrupt you until the final mission in the game. Now, I know that sounds awful. It sounds very reminiscent of Aelia in Mega Man X5, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. Egad's dialogue is still very charming, and he never comes off as if he's insulting the player. Would I have preferred less hand-holding? Absolutely. But this is tolerable. Still, just warning you, he'll call you a lot. The second mansion is technically a 2-for-1 deal, the Haunted Towers. This is by far my favorite mansion in the game for its scope and missions. The two towers are separated by outside catwalks that provide some scary views. The greenery is pleasant to see, and I think the gray-colored walls help for contrast purposes. In addition to nature being a prevalent theme, so is water. B1 sees Luigi looking for the hydro generator in hopes of repairing it. The Haunted Towers is entirely reliant on this generator to work, so it doesn't demand explanation as to just how important it is that Luigi can fix it. He does a fine job, though he got ambushed by a yellow ghost. Oh well. B2 sees Luigi finding a way to the top part of the mansion, the tree. Egad received readings of the Dark Moon piece being somewhere up there. However, the ghost stole the parts to the pinwheel gate, restricting direct access to the tree. B3, now having the pieces of the pinwheel gate, Luigi enters the newest section of the Haunted Towers. Luigi is introduced to the first toad in the game. These toads are helpers of Egad, who were sadly transported to paintings by King Boo before the adventure began. A fun escort mission ensues. Yes, fun escort mission. B4 is awesome. There's a special key needed to access the tree section, and the red toad took a picture of the ghosts who were handling it. Luigi makes it all the way there with some of the most fun puzzles and combat encounters on the way there, just for the key to be taken away by the cute dog named Polterpup. B5 is the chase mission. Not bad, but not worth discussing. Oh, the boss level tree topping is freaking genius. The entire level is simply a large staircase to get to the boss room. Here's the catch. Only one staircase per level is real, and the others will fall beneath you. Each time you fail, you fall all the way down. I know a lot of Dark Moon fans hate this level, but I adore it! If you pay attention, you'll see a path given by the flames, so in order to maximize your progress and time, you should look carefully and memorize as many flames as you can. If you take guesses, you'll be here for a while. A long while. The music speeds up too, an awesome piece mostly comprised of string instruments plucking. The Haunted Towers has an incredibly strong lineup and a solid atmosphere to boot. Moving right along to the third mansion, the Old Clockworks. This mansion is quite good, but there are two missions I'm not so fond of. C1 is centered around finding the major clock near the top of the Clockworks in order to proceed. It's fairly standard, but a quality mission. I really enjoy the large in scope feel, and you're required to travel quite a distance. C2 involves tracking down the clock hands in the Old Clockworks underground cavern. Oh my lord, this mission is incredible! The featured cavern is one of the scariest areas in the game, with foreboding music, low lighting, and mummies. Yes, mummies. Not only does C2 have an excellent atmosphere, but it also features great combat encounters with these mummies. Now, if you're assuming that C3 is where the quality dips, you're incorrect. Investigating the remaining sections of the mansion are a priority, in addition to tackling this mini-boss. However, more interesting than the mini-boss itself are the rooms leading up to it. This is the mansion where the developers start to create more challenging puzzles and combat scenarios. So, how about that C4? Look, in the Haunted Towers, we had a mission revolving around the Polterpup. I said it wasn't worth discussing, but the one thing I can say about it is that chasing the dog was a fun mission for what it was. However, bringing back the idea is quite repetitive. C4 is the definition of filler, and keep in mind, I'm being so harsh on all of these missions in Dark Moon because every single mission is at least decent. C5 is our Toad escort mission for the mansion, and it is certainly polished and well-paced. Despite this, I prefer the first three missions of the mansion. The boss stage is fairly simple and straightforward, no interesting staircase this time, sadly. So, the Old Clockworks is an excellent mansion, but it has some holes in its armor to make it inferior to the Haunted Towers. Now, for something really interesting. The fourth mansion in Dark Moon is the Secret Mine. The mansion is only 3 missions long compared to the standard of 5. Well, don't fear because the developers certainly understood the concept of quality over quantity. The Secret Mine comes very, very close to the Haunted Towers for me, with fewer missions. D1 is the Toad escort mission for the mansion, but because this is the player's first time through, it's automatically more difficult and interesting than the previous ones. The Secret Mine has lots of slippery floors and collapsed wood structures, such as bridges. You'll have to carefully navigate Toad and yourself to the goal, and I wouldn't have it any other way. D2 is one of the most important missions relating to the Dark Moon's overall plot. The blue Toad presented his photograph to Egad, and we see the ghosts are more powerful than ever. Through the picture, we can identify that Mario has been transported into a painting and being lugged around. Luigi explores the crystal quarry, and by the end of the mission, a teleporter is discovered. The Orchestrator, as dubbed by Egad, is extracting these crystals to make the ghosts more powerful. You know, I find it interesting that King Boo sends the ghost to each of the mansions for a specific reason. I mean, that is true, right? If you go back and think about the previous mansions, there was a sense of common goal in each. This I can appreciate. D3 is my favorite mission in the game, flat out. The set pieces are varied, new territory is explored. You know what? Just know that D3 is a culmination of everything I've been praising Dark Moon for up to this point. Also, the mission ends like this. And the final mansion, the Treacherous Mansion. In E1, Egad is completely transparent about how dangerous the paranormal activity is in this final mansion, and that he wouldn't touch it with a 200-foot pole. But that's what Luigi's for, right? Egad struggles to pinpoint the exact location of the final Dark Moon piece, so he gives Luigi the front key that he suspiciously has. And the mission begins. After Luigi nearly falls, bridge to the turnabout style, he approaches the front door and... Polterpup takes the key. I would be more dramatic and upset, but the mission itself makes up for this dumb contrivance. It's with this mansion that we see a culmination of the previous mansion's ideas. Everything is expanded upon in a new way, but that does leave the mansion lacking an identity, once again leaving the Haunted Towers my preferred mansion by a slim margin. Comparisons aside, we are lucky to have such a great mission for the contrivance. In E2, we have our final Toad escort mission. Moving right along, E3 is a solid mission. Mario is properly identified in the picture that the purple Toad presented, and it's an image that's also showing a train exhibit. In an admittedly creepy way, King Boo hijacks the photo and corrupts it, creating an illusion. Luigi makes his way there, solving puzzles leading to it. Considering that a path has been created, Egad is satisfied and transport Luigi back to the bunker. E4 is replaced by a boss fight. Luigi gets transported into the train area and fights a whole bunch of Boos. And now, the final mission. E5, Paranormal Chaos. This is easily the most famous mission from the game, and it's easily one of my favorites. Luigi falls down in fear as he witnesses a paranormal portal sending wave after wave of ghosts around the treacherous mansion. All of a sudden, the tensions have increased. The entire world is at stake. I'm not making this up. The portal will spell doom for the entire world because time and space is being destroyed. It would be too ridiculous for this game to have such an intense final level, but the music, the atmosphere, and the challenge make it deserving. The piece of music you are hearing is the same motif used for the ghosts since the beginning of the game. But now look, it has been fleshed out into a full composition with more parts than before. As time and space collapses, the music speeds up, making the repetitive tune more and more haunting. Adding to this tension and fear are the purple lightning strikes and the constant combat. This level is not joking around. It's hard as hell, and I love it. Not only are you running from room to room and portal to portal under a time limit, but you have to fight tons of ghosts in tough situations. The final showdown by the paranormal portal is insane. Please take a look. Professor Egad calls you back once matters have been handled, so that Luigi can empty all of the ghosts into the vault before he goes to the final mission. And after King Boo is defeated in the final battle, the world returns to normal and the game concludes. We'll touch more on the ending a bit later. I briefly touched on the bosses with the spider in the Gloomy Manor, but I have little to say on the others. The boss of the Haunted Towers is visually lame and not very interesting to fight, and it lacks the puzzle aspect that the first boss had. The Old Clockworks battle is okay. Defeat these enemies and avoid the clock hand if possible. The Secret Mines fight is alright as well, and the semi-final boss and final boss of the game are okay. I'm sorry, there's nothing left to say on that. Wow! Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon has excellently crafted gameplay across the board, maybe minus the boss fights. Some of the missions are a little uninspired, and some of them are repetitive, and the difficulty can be quite cheap. But the mechanics and mansions are absolutely out of this world. But what is perhaps most notable is the presentation. Dark Moon is often hopping between two distinct tones, witty and frightening. The latter happens only occasionally until Paranormal Chaos, so let's analyze the wit. Gosh, no better place to start than the animation. Luigi, Egad, and especially the ghosts burst with fluid and exaggerated animation. During many times in a mansion, there will be little holes in the walls that Luigi can peer into and get a glimpse of the ghost's behavior. Some of the ghosts are very calm and do human things, while others get into pillow fights. This is great stuff. The animation is just as smooth in gameplay. Luigi's off-pace walk and hunched back help you see into how he feels, and his bumbling run, depending on the situation, could be of excitement or terror. And of course, you can cry out for Mario as well. The lighting in the mansions is top-notch. Many areas will be darker than others, and there will be occasionally some whiplash once the room is cleared of ghosts. It suddenly bursts with light. I feel that the visual effects are way ahead of the 3DS in terms of pop. The electricity on the Poltergust 5000 is a key highlight. These colorful lights and effects make the game more pleasing to look at, which is an impressive feat considering how darkly lit this game is. On a more musical side, the presentation satisfies expectations. You'll see that there's a heavy emphasis on woodwinds and plucking performed by string instruments. I think these choices paid off, as they allow the eerie and melancholy pieces to stick out. Other pieces have a nice calm bounce to them, like with the pause menu theme. Have a listen to some of the soundtrack's highlights. The soundtrack's composition is certainly satisfactory as well, with great variety in how prevalent motifs are tackled. There's one catch though. As you probably noticed from my examples in the video's brief intro, The music is quite compressed, especially on the clarinet and other low woodwinds, as you could probably tell from this video's intro. But it doesn't distract all that much. In terms of more, how should I say, quality of life matters, the frame rate is sometimes 60, usually dips to 40, and it's rarely under 30, only brief moments of action will actually reach that low. I really wish Dark Moon maintained a locked 60 frames, but the graphics are so impressive that it doesn't matter too much. Now, do you know what really brings all of these elements together for me? It's the charm. This game has so much personality that it often hides some of the weaker mission's faults. Sucking up ghosts is incredibly satisfying thanks to the sound design and the animations present. Listen to the sound that plays when you suck up a ghost. This is just one example of how charming this product of entertainment is. Because at the end of the day, video games are forms of entertainment. I can't think of many experiences more entertaining than the complete package we have in Dark Moon. What heightens this sense of charm and entertainment value is the slapstick. Luigi has so many unfortunate but hilarious events occur to him, and to cap it all off, the final cutscene. After defeating King Boo, Evershade Valley returns to normal, and so do the ghosts. The ghosts are not only friendly to the main characters once again, but are happy that they themselves have returned to their true selves. Egad is just as happy, and Luigi is thrilled because Mario is saved. What ensues is a full, voice-acted conversation between Mario and Luigi. I can't think of any other time we've seen Mario characters talk to each other this much, other than Super Mario Sunshine.
Mario? Oh.
Luigi, you saved Mario.
I did it.
Way to go.
Oh.
Number one.
Thanks, my bro. Thanks, Mario. Oh. 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 Okay.
That, my friends, is the definition of charm. Before we close out this review, I want to briefly touch on the multiplayer in Dark Moon. The Scarescraper is an online and local co-op mode where you and other Luigi players must work together or compete in taking out the ghosts. The mansion layout is much simpler than the campaign one, as you'd expect, but this mode is surprisingly fun. Okay, I'd be lying if I said there was a lot of depth here, but it's certainly worth trying out with your friends if everyone's on board. The best way I can summarize Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is this. The game can be a little repetitive, a little overwhelming, and maybe a little too unforgiving when you pick at the finer details. But at the end of the day, no matter how much I gush about the atmosphere and tight design, the game is pure fun and well-spirited. Even when they pull the stairs out from under you or take away your key in the next room, the game has a positive spirit that cannot be matched by many other games. Sure, Dark Moon has charm that I will admire until I die, but the positive spirit that brings a smile to my face is what elevates this game to the level of quality that I hold it to. With all that said and done, how would I recommend Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon? Jumping ahead of myself for a second, this is the easiest decision I've ever had to make in my entire life. Dark Moon is a Nintendo Select for the 3DS, meaning that there are new, reprinted physical copies out in the wild. Availability is looking favorable, as you can always download the game on the eShop, but remember that because this is a Nintendo Select, the price is only $20. An absolute necessity. It's a downright phenomenal and easy to find game at a cheap price nonetheless. Buy it, play it, love it.